Assalamualaikum and good morning everyone. Today our team will present the title about Food Detective. Is your food really what they say? Every day we trust that food we buy is safe and contain exactly what is stated on the label. However, there are cases where food may contain contamination, harmful chemical, or even fake ingredients. Because of this, food testing is very important. Food testing helps to ensure food safety, detect contamination or food adulteration, verify nutrition labels, and protect consumers from health risks. To carry out these tests, scientists use some analytical chemistry. Analytical chemistry is a branch of chemistry that identifies and measure the chemical components in the sample. In food analysis, it helps to determine whether food meets safety standard and whether the information on label is accurate. Now, let's see the three common analytical chemistry technique that use to identify chemical component or ingredient in a sample from food. First, we have volumetric analysis, which is used titration to determine the concentration of a substance in food, such as amount of vitamin C or acidity. And second is a gravimetric analysis, where the amount of a substance is determined by the measuring its mass after the separation. This method is often used to determine moisture, ash, or mineral content in a food. Finally, chromatography separates different compounds in a food sample. It is widely used to identify food coloring, preservatives, and pesticides, and other chemical components. By together, these techniques help scientists to verify whether food is truly what it claims to be.
To understand how food labels are verified, scientists rely on a foundational technique known as volumetric analysis, commonly referred to as titration. This is a highly precise quantitative method used to determine the exact unknown concentration of a specific substance within a sample. The core principle relies on a controlled chemical reaction. By gradually adding a solution of a known concentration to the sample, the reaction can be closely monitored and the chemical content is calculated based on the exact volume of liquid consumed. This specific technique is highly effective for analyzing commercial vinegar to verify its label 5% acetic acid content. It is important to note that this percentage is not merely a marketing claim. It is a strict regulatory standard required to ensure the vinegar is strong enough for safe food preservation. The purpose of using volumetric analysis here is to determine whether a product meets these legal requirements or if the product has been diluted to reduce manufacturing costs. The analytical procedure is both systematic and precise. First, a measured volume of vinegar is introduced into a flask along with a pH indicator. Next, a standardized base, typically sodium hydroxide, is carefully dispensed drop by drop from a calibrated glass tube called a burette. The exact moment the acid is completely neutralized, the indicator triggers a distinct color change to a permanent faint pink. At this precise endpoint, the flow is stopped and the exact volume delivered is recorded for the final calculation. The collected data ultimately provide the analytical verdict. A calculated acidity falling between 5% and 5.2% validates the manufacturer level, confirming the product is authentic and safe for consumer use. Conversely, a result below 4.5% indicates a non-compliant, mislabeled product that fails to meet preservation standards. Having established how acidity is verified in liquid products, the focus now shifts to a second food item using a different analytical approach.
Now, let's move to our second analytic technique, which is gravimetric analysis. Gravimetric analysis is a method used to determine the amount of substance to by measuring its mass. In simple terms, scientists convert the substance they want to measure into a solid, then dry and weigh it accurately. One common application is food analysis is determine the salt content in processed food, such as instant noodle, potato chips, and crackers. This is important because too much salt can increase the risk of health problems such as high blood pressure. Therefore, manufacturers must ensure that the salt content on the food label must match the actual product. So, how does this method work? First, the food sample is dissolved in water. Then, a chemical called silver nitrate is added. So, the chloride ions from the salt react with the silver nitrate to form a white solid called silver chloride. This solid is then filtered, dried, and weighed. So, using the mass of the silver chloride, scientists can calculate the amount of salt originally present in the food. For example, if a packet of chips states that it contains 1.2 gram of salt, gravimetric analysis can be used to verify this claim. If the laboratory result is close to the value of the label, it shows that the manufacturer has provided accurate information. In conclusion, gravimetric analysis is a reliable and accurate method for measuring salt content in food. It helps ensure that food labels are trustworthy, supports quality control in the food industry, and allows consumers to make informed choice about the food they
Thank you,
eat.
Faris, for sharing your knowledge with us. Now, let's investigate about the colorful candy. When we see a red, green, or yellow candy, we usually assume that each color comes from just one coloring agent. But is that really true? Scientists use chromatography to answer this question. Chromatography is an analytical technique used to separate the different components in a mixture. In food analysis, it helps identify the dye present in candies, drink, and other color food. This allows manufacturer and food inspector to verify whether the coloring matches the product label and meet food safety regulations. The process is actually quite simple. First and foremost, the food coloring is extracted from the candy using a small amount of water or another suitable solvent. A tiny drop of the solvent is placed near the bottom of chromatography paper. The paper is then placed in a solvent. As the solvent moves upward through the paper, it carries the coloring molecule along with it. Since different dye interact differently with the paper and the solvent, they travel at a different speed and separate into distinct color spots. As you can see, here is a typical chromatographic result. If only one color spot appears, it means the candy contains a single coloring agent. However, if several spots appear, it shows that the candy contains multiple food dye mixed together to produce the final color. Scientists can compare this separated dye with non-standard to identify each coloring agent. This information helps verify food label to ensure regulatory compliance and protect consumers from the use of unauthorized or excessive food
So,
coloring.
there are several methods to testing a food. Each of these methods, they are designed for different purposes. For example, like volumetric analysis, they are best for measuring the concentration through liquid volume reaction, such as testing the acidity of vinegar. The gravimetric analysis is suitable for isolating and weighing the compound to find the exact mass, such as to determine the salt content. And the last one is chromatography. This method is suitable for separating the complex mixture into individual components. It can be used to identifying different dye in food coloring. So, analytical chemistry is very important in the food industry. By implementing various analytical methods, it can be used for detecting food fraud, enforcing the quality control, and global public safety. That's all from us. Thank you.